Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my latest video. As those who are familiar with my channel may know, I'm coming out of the holidays now and trying to get back into some of the other kinds of titles that I was talking about previously, such as last week's restart of some of the more current horror titles, such as Blood Relatives and Sissy, both of which are on Shudder and are exclusive to that service, as well as getting back into some of the more classic horror by revisiting some Hammer Films titles, such as The Devil's Ride Out. Now, I am kind of getting over a sickness here that's been kind of giving me ups and downs all week, and I've even seen other creators posting about dealing with the same thing, so needless to say, it's been a bit crazy and I might be a little bit low energy for this one. But now that I'm catching back up with some of the kind of content I was making before, I wanted to revisit some 80s titles again. I think the last time was several months ago, maybe during the summer, when I checked out Two of a Kind again, back in August I think that was. So anyways, this time I wanted to revisit the 80s film Some Kind of Wonderful from 1987, starring Eric Stoltz, Lea Thompson, and Mary Stuart Masterson. The synopsis for which is as follows. When Keith goes out with Amanda, the girl of his dreams, Amanda's ex-boyfriend plans to get back at Keith. Meanwhile, Keith's best friend, tomboy Watts, realizes she has feelings for Keith. So, this one I kind of remember seeing a few times way back in the day, when it was first on cable TV back in the 80s. I remember liking it, but just kind of thinking it was okay, wasn't really blown away. But before revisiting it, I wasn't really sure why this one didn't stick out, and really be as memorable to me as other similar films by similar writers, such as 16 Candles and Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink. But upon watching this one again with fresh eyes, since it had been so long, it is indeed a solid film, but it is a bit different than those others, mainly in that the humor was pretty muted and subdued by comparison. So let's say with 16 Candles, we get the geek and his whole entourage. Pretty in Pink, we had John Cryer as Ducky, kind of handling all the comedy work in that one. And even in Breakfast Club, though it was much more of a dramatic film compared, out of these three, we had a lot of bits of comedy thrown in throughout that really made it stand out. So you had a lot more ups and downs in it. With this one, basically, I feel like the only real comedy relief that we get, besides a little bit of stuff with Keith's sister and stuff like that, is the character of Skinhead. Who's not really a skinhead by socio-political or race-related ways, just more this dirt rocker kind of guy with with a shaved head, who is always the one kind of throwing all the comedy in there and does a great job with it. But it's really not enough to bring the comedy beats throughout this entire film like you might have seen in 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, or Pretty in Pink. But this one, definitely feels more serious, more romantic and dramatic than those others, which is likely why when I was younger I didn't take to it as much as I did with things, like those other films. I was kind of drawn to those other ones more for the humor in them than the other, like the meat of the story, let's say. But for Some Kind of Wonderful, on this revisit, I really enjoyed it. There are a few things that stick out, of course. For one thing, the relationship between the characters of Keith and Watts comes across as very genuine in this, and touching. They've been friends for years. They've got this great chemistry. They call each other out on things, and they also, back each other up, and they're always there for each other. There's a connection where by the time it's revealed that Watts is having those feelings for Keith, and she's coming to terms with that, and especially as Keith is starting to realize his feelings for her as well. It's a little bit rushed towards the end, but it doesn't feel forced. It feels very natural that this was the only logical direction these characters were possibly going to be going. Another one is his attraction to Amanda. I kind of understand that a little bit better. She's attractive and she's kind, and her splitting up with her boyfriend and the fallout from that. As a viewer, I never quite was against her so much because of the Watts situation. I just felt that there's more of a connection that he has with Watts. So after all, really Keith doesn't know a whole lot about Amanda. He just is attracted to her. So he's trying to get to know her. But as an audience member, we already see this connection with Watts the entire time, and I'm kind of hoping and expecting that it will continue in that direction. Another one, of course, is Amanda's ex, Hardy, played by Craig Sheffer. He's truly rotten. We are never led to believe that he will ever turn things around and kind of become a better person from many of these situations. From anything happening in the story, we have him easily figured out, and just hope that even if Amanda doesn't end up with Keith by the end, that she just doesn't go back to him. Now, of course, we also have other side characters in this, such as Keith's dad and sister, and they're written surprisingly well, you know, rather than what I've seen in some other films where they are kind of like these shallow cardboard cutout characters to kind of just fill a slot. They're actually pretty well developed. You know, we get this sibling rivalry between Keith and his sister. You know, they pick on each other, they fight a lot, but ultimately his sister does care about him, and that comes out in the story. Same with his father, you know, who only really wants the best for him, you know, that he's got opportunities that he didn't have. But, and he can get very loud and angry about that, but we get a few scenes to develop that. One in particular where they're really kind of hashing out what's happening in Keith's life and what he wants versus what his dad wants for him. And most importantly, why his dad wants that for him. So they can kind of come to an agreement on certain things and reach a common ground. So it doesn't feel like wasted time, and it doesn't feel like anything that's just this cardboard cutout. You end up really getting to know a lot of these characters surprisingly well. So after viewing this, of course, it was clear why I didn't take as much to it as I was young, you know, when I was younger. I mean, I'd enjoyed it back then, but it wasn't one that I'd randomly queue up like some of the others that I mentioned. In fact, I'd kind of forgotten about this film over the years, and thanks to YouTube and their music option, this kind of came back to the forefront because of a music video by Retrowave Cinema, which I'll link to in the description, for a song called Now by Et 1980. And they used nothing but just footage from this movie to kind of make their music video. It kind of got me interested in checking out. And then, of course, there was also Nasser, this guy who does reaction videos out of Dubai, I believe. And he was watching Back to the Future 3 and really got all jazzed when we saw that Lea Thompson was back in that. So that was really funny to kind of see his reaction to that. And so it just got me wanting to get back into some of the 80s stuff and some of the stuff that Lea Thompson has been in. Anyways, you know, there are some expected 80s high school tropes at play here, but it all works really well and it's worth checking out. I believe at the time of this video, it's on HBO Max and Showtime. And, you know, so you can go ahead and check those out. Also, speaking of checking out, if you're watching this on the day that it posts, which I'm hoping to get this out in time, it is Friday the 13th. So go ahead and check out my back catalog because I've got a few videos about when I revisited all of the Friday the 13th films last summer. I believe there's about 4 videos total, but those are worth checking out in my opinion. And, you know, it's Friday the 13th. You got to somehow work in Jason Voorhees, even though it has nothing to do with 80s teen romantic comedies. Anyways, again, speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this latest video. I'm already starting to lose my voice again, and sticking around to the end. Be sure to like and subscribe. All those things really do help out the channel quite a bit, and I will see you in the next one.